Hi there, beautiful souls. Welcome and thank you for watching. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. So, this is about some stories from my mediumship teachers, which taught me quite a lot. So, the first story is from my male mediumship teacher. They were a couple, and he told us that he had to learn to not be alone with a female client in a mediumship, a medium reading, or a session. Because, as a medium, you also get some weird clients sometimes. And later on, he started recording all the sessions he had for certain reasons. Because some of the women that came to have a session with him clearly had some mental issues or were really delusional. I cannot find any other explanation for what they fabricated later on. They suddenly, after the session, accused him of having touched them inappropriately or of sexual harassment and stuff like that. And I don't believe that that ever really happened. They made this up. And that's why he very rapidly started to have a witness within the room. His wife, for example, the other half of the mediumship teachers I was with in Germany, or he recorded the session. Because once it happened to him that he had a female client. She was in a difficult marriage, but she wasn't courageous enough to really deal with her husband and talk with him openly. Maybe he was also kind of in the toxic masculine behavior, trying to control her, and she wanted to get out of that marriage, but she didn't have the courage to orchestrate that on herself. So she booked a session with my mediumship teacher and, dumped her whole story and misery on him. And he helped her as best as he could. But he never said, leave your husband, get out of that marriage. A really good medium just helps you to find out what you really want and not what he thinks or she thinks. So, of course, he recorded that session, luckily, because that woman went home and immediately got into an argument and a fight with her husband because, of course, being with the medium, she was still a bit in a different energy. Because if two people come together, whether they are medium and client or not, you have the merge of the energy fields of your auric field around you, or you can call that the quantum field, if you like, which is conscious. And of course, if you are with a person that has a bit of a higher vibration than you yourself, you feel uplifted and everything is looking more easy, and you go back home and think, oh, I will do some changes and stuff like that, whatever. And then you slowly come back, drop down to your own real state of consciousness and state of vibration and frequency. So, in that process, she argued with her husband, and she had not the courage to tell him that she wants to get out of the marriage because she's unhappy and she does not feel that it's leading anywhere. She took the easy way and just threw her husband into the face. "The medium also said I should leave you," which was not true. So next morning, the doorbell rang, and my mediumship teacher went to open the door and found himself in front of a pistol and an angry man, an angry husband, who said, "You told my wife to leave me! How dare you!" and all that kind of stuff. Luckily, he kept calm and he said, "Please come in. I have a recording of the session. I never said that, and you can listen to it yourself and find out what I really said and what your wife made up." So that is the first story that taught me a lot, because people make up things, unfortunately. They don't really listen to what you say as a medium or just someone they meet. They're so in their own constructions and ego mind and thoughts and wishes, and it's all kind of a confused mesh of everything, frequency-wise. And sometimes more unaware, they choose the easy way and they twist and turn whatever you said to them, and they make up things, and they make from what you said something different that you never said and never meant. That's why I also learned to better do a recording of a session. Not so much for myself, but also for the client to listen to it again and get out of the own mindset and really listen what was said. So that was the first story, teaching me a lot. And the second story, that's quite interesting. My mediumship teacher was at a public demonstration of mediumship, and it was quite a big room, an audience, and at one point one wife was pushing her husband in a wheelchair up to the stage. And the husband was kind of depressive, hanging in his wheelchair and letting everything happen. And of course, my mediumship teacher got the expectations or the maybe false thoughts that fly around this situation. And he thought, "Oh my gosh, hopefully she does not expect me to heal her husband and to stand up from his wheelchair and suddenly be able to walk on his own two legs." You know, that's kind of the cliche thought around this story. And well, he did his work, how he learned to do the medium work. He just sensed into the husband, and of course he picked up on the depression, because that guy was in his mindset, of course, all over, "I cannot walk any longer. How's my life going to be, sitting in a wheelchair for the rest of my life?" And he was frustrated and depressed because he was only fixated onto walking on his own legs. And by that, he was missing out on everything else life has to offer. And while my mediumship teacher sensed into him and got these strong and heavy emotions from the client, the husband sitting in the wheelchair, he suddenly got an image, kind of a vision. He saw watercolors and painting and brushes. So he asked the husband in the wheelchair, describing the picture he saw, "Have you ever tried to paint with watercolors, or does it attract you? Or can you imagine to do something like that?" And then suddenly the man in the wheelchair kind of opened up, looked at him, and got a bit more enthusiastic and said, Well, I used to paint with watercolors before my accident, but I'm not doing anything of that right now. So my mediumship teacher talked him a little bit more into it and said, see, if you do that and pick up your talent of painting with watercolors again, you might go out into nature with your wheelchair, maybe accompanied by your wife, and pick up the atmosphere that you find and put that into a picture. And by using these wonderful, brilliant watercolors, you can create something that does not have anything to do with walking on your legs, but using your imagination and your fantasy and being inspired, to do something creative. And the husband kind of blossomed up in the wheelchair and was happy, and that was the session he had in the public demonstration on stage. So when his wife pushed him down from the stage, he was in a much better condition because he had an idea, kind of a goal, something new that was already something old because he already did it. But to come back to that, and by that even easing the fixation onto, I cannot walk on my legs, I have to sit in a wheelchair, he started painting again. Isn't that wonderful? And teaching us a lot about how we block out everything else that might inspire and uplift us when we're only fixated onto the one problem. See, there is so much you can do, even if you're in a wheelchair. And I love that story. That taught me a lot, to never give in to even the kind of nearly tangible projections, ideas, cliche thoughts, or whatever that some people just throw at you as a client, or that are in a situation like the public demonstration, swirling around in the crowd, And as an intuitive, a sensitive, and an empath, I'm clear sentient. I feel stuff, I feel energies. I can clearly feel when a client is throwing, even unaware, his or her projections onto me. And that's always something you have to deal with, to kind of clear that up and get it out of the way, because it's only hindering and blocking the client as well as the medium. And the third story is from my female mediumship teacher. And I love to end with this wonderful story because she is a homeopath as well. And in that capacity, she became, through contacts, she's also within the Zen movement, and had a long traditional Japanese Zen experience and teachings. She became the Honorable Doctor of the Japanese Homeopathic Society. And in that, she once, on one of her journeys to Japan, she was invited to the gardens of the emperor that are cured and cared by special gardeners. And she was able to partake in their morning ritual, which was standing at the edge of the garden and meditating with closed eyes, with their tools in their hand, the big scissors to cut branches off or whatever. And then when they kind of got an impulse and felt called by a special plant, a bush or a tree, then they went off and did kind of what they perceived the bush or the tree wanted them to do and to cut off. So isn't that wonderful? You don't go out into your garden and cut as you think it has to be, or as your plan of how your garden has to look like, cutting off stuff here and there. You just open up and meditate for a few minutes and wait until the plant calls you by itself. Isn't that wonderful? I'm not always able to practice that in my garden, but sometimes I can hear plants speaking to me and wanting me to cut off something or do this and do that. And I always cherish these moments because these are, to me, real contact moments. Plants and animals have a soul as well, and you can communicate with them. If you are open and you can feel energies, or you are able to receive and perceive audible stuff like clear audience, or even getting images and pictures of visions, meaning you're receptible, perceiving clear sentient stuff. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for watching and spending some time with me, as time is so precious, I know. Thank you very much. Blessings, love and light, as always. Beautiful souls to you on your soul path. Bye.